Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Aurora Smedley podcast, where I speak with you about what the world needs to hear. And in today's episode, I'm going to be discussing how to know what you want. And this is something that I decided to discuss because so many people actually do not know what they want. And I've found this actually to be almost shocking because for most of my life, I've generally known what I wanted. And I've been a little bewildered to see that so many people do not know what they want. And this actually causes a lot of problems for people because they then are lacking in focus, they're lacking in direction, and consequently, they are lacking in fulfillment and happiness. So in this episode, I'm going to be discussing one resource that is more valuable than time or money. And I'm going to be discussing the 3 major blockers to knowing what you want. And finally, after all of this, I'm going to get into how exactly to find what you want and start living your life from that place of true internal alignment. So let's get started with some of the biggest blockers to people knowing what they want. Because like I said, the vast majority of people seem to not know what they actually want. And this means that they are not able to build the lives that are aligned with who and what they are. They are not able to create the businesses and the art and the life and the families and the everything that they are looking to create in their life simply because they do not know. The first thing that you should know about most people who say they do not know what they want, and this is going to sound a little scandalous, is that most people who say that they do not know what they want are lying. Most people are lying. Most people who do not know what they want are actually covering it up because they are afraid of admitting to themselves what they actually want. Because once you actually announce to yourself what you want, you also introduce the possibility of not receiving it. You introduce the possibility of failure. You introduce the possibility of other people thinking that you're ridiculous, of other people making fun of you, of not actually succeeding. And you also open up the sometimes even scarier possibility of actually doing it, of actually succeeding, of actually getting there. So this is why a lot of people are lying to themselves, is not because they actually don't know what they want, but rather because they don't want to admit it to themselves. Generally, what you want, if it is truly what you want, is something that is very vulnerable feeling. It's something that is actually pushing your edges. It's something that if you want it enough, it feels scary because then you have to contend with the truth of who and what you are, which is a limitless being in the universe. So if you are actually looking at what you truly are, that is terrifying. The second major blocker is that not only are we lying to ourselves because we are afraid, but secondly, we actually do not believe that it is possible for us to receive what we want, or specifically for us to create what we want. We do not believe that it is possible, therefore we do not do it. We do not even consider it. We do not look at it. We do not ask ourselves the question, how do I make this possible? We do not ask ourselves the question, how do I collaborate with the creator to make this possible? How do I go about putting in actions in order to shift this situation and realize this in physical reality? So the second blocker to people knowing what they want is that because they do not believe in it, they hide it from themselves. They do not look at it and they do not take action on it because deep down inside, they do not believe that what they want is possible. So the next major blocker to people knowing what they want is listening too much to outside voices. So in our society, we hear so much noise from social media gurus, personal development gurus, other people, etc. And so because of this, there's so much external noise that a lot of people have simply lost touch with their internal voice. So they have not connected with, they have lost touch with, they're no longer listening to that small internal voice, which is telling them who they are and what they want to manifest in this reality. So basically, if you are not listening, then how will you know? And if you are allowing so many of these external voices to block out your inner knowing, then how would you know? The thing is that there is no actual direct one-size-fits-all path to success. Some people start businesses by quitting their job and going all in on that, right? Some people start businesses while having a day job. Some people start businesses and become successful overnight. Some people start businesses and become successful in 20 years, guys. So some people release one song on social media and blow up and become famous with that one song. And some people go at it for 200 songs before they break through, right? If they're an artist. So there's someone is going to meet the exact right person for their career, success, love life, right? Right away, and somebody else is going to go and put in tons of effort in order to receive that, right? So there's no one right path to success, and there's no one size fits all to any of this because every single person is different. Every single person's soul path is different. And so what is true for one person, what one person's path should look like is very different from what someone else's path should look like. And so the only way to really guide your own life, the only way to really gain a sense of your own autonomy, your own authority, your own sense of empowerment, your own sense of knowing about what you want, what is right for you, is for you to be in communication with your own inner voice. And when you lose connection to that inner voice, you lose connection to your personal truth. And this happens frequently in our society because there are so many external voices. There's so much social media. There's so much news. There's so much radio. There is so much YouTube. Guys, I'm on YouTube too, but obviously you should listen to me. So this means that people lose connection with their own internal world. And this becomes a problem because then people don't know what to do in their life. and people start to just follow the motions of what the societal script is. Because of this, I'm going to get into one of the theses of this episode, which is the one resource that is, in my view, more valuable than time or money. And this resource is clarity. Just to give you an example, let's say that somebody has $10 million, $100 million, and they have 10 years to make whatever they want happen, right? Or they have even more money. They're getting $100 million a year and they have 10 years to make the thing happen, right? All of the time, all of the money, but they don't know what they want. So that time and that money is worthless because they cannot build the life that they want. They cannot direct that time and that money and those other resources without having an inner sense of clarity about their life direction. Without clarity, nothing gets done. Without clarity, you can spend 10 years going up the wrong mountain. Sometimes people will put in tons and tons of effort trying to build a certain future that looks like the right thing, but was actually someone else's dream. It was something that someone else implanted in them at some point, that they feel that they should do that thing. And so because of that, they might put in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into building a life that isn't even true to them. And guys, just to be clear, if you have done that, or if you've experienced that in any way, that doesn't mean you're lost. That doesn't mean anything. Everything is perfect. The universe is perfect. Your life is perfect. The timing is perfect, right? However, once you have the clarity to know what is true for you, then it is your responsibility to move forward on closing those gaps. This is why clarity is so critical, is that without clarity, without access to this inner voice, this inner knowing, we become automatons to other people's control, to social media's influence, and to what our parents say, to what our friends say, to what all of these other people are doing, rather than aligning ourselves with our own internal compass so that we can guide our lives in a direction that is actually authentic for us. So now that I've discussed both the things blocking what we want and also why clarity is critical to us being able to move forward with our lives, I'm going to discuss how to know what you want. And the first thing that I am going to point out is literally just turning off the noise. So the first issue that a lot of people have is simply just getting bombarded by social media. So once you turn that off, once you turn off the social media, then you start to get a lot more clarity about what you actually want, because you're not being hit by so many other people's opinions. This could mean turning off social media. This could mean unplugging the television. This could mean just being on your own for a few days and actually getting physical space from the people that you are around. Going for long walks, going for long hikes. I find now these kind of monotonous, long form activities help you begin to access your own inner knowing better, because you are opening up space to be bored. When you open up space to be bored, you actually open up space for your internal voice to start talking to you. The next technique that I'm going to propose in knowing what you want is asking yourself the question, what am I afraid to admit to myself that I want? What am I afraid to admit to myself that I want? If anything is possible, then what would I want? If I had $10 million, what would I do? If I had $10 million and I could only invest it in myself and my happiness, no stocks, no bonds, no real estate, etc., then what would I do? So these questions help you clear the fear as far as determining what you want, and also clear the blockers around your belief about what you want. One final question is, what do I want but do not believe in? In what way do I not believe in what I want? And usually at this point, when you clear the fear and the lack of belief and other people's voices from what you want, you're going to find that 9 times out of 10, you do know what you want. You just didn't want to admit it to yourself. You didn't want to admit it to yourself. You were afraid about it. And so you don't even look at it, right? There is one other thing that I wanted to mention, and that is that sometimes people legitimately do not know what they want, okay? And this is actually kind of an exciting, interesting topic. And this is that sometimes you get really, really confused and you do not know what you want and it's not becoming clear. And you ask yourself what you're afraid of and you don't know. You don't know what you're afraid of. You don't know what you want. You don't know what beliefs are preventing you from that thing. And you are legitimately super confused about what you want, right? And this is actually really interesting. What I have found is that when you are very confused about what you want, it is because your soul is actually in a major reconstruction process. If you are truly, truly confused about what you want, your soul is doing things underneath the surface right now that might be completely reconstructing your identity to help create your next level in the soul video game, basically. So if you are truly, truly confused about what you want, this is where you actually need to stop looking so far ahead and start looking right in front of you at what your next step is. And this is when you need to start being just really curious about the little random ideas that start coming to you in your head. So this podcast is actually one of those little random ideas for me. And now look, we're 20 episodes in, baby. But anyway, when you start being really confused and you don't really know what you're doing, this is actually an exciting time for your soul, where your soul is doing some major reconstruction under the surface. And so at this point, like I said, you turn off that social media, you start to listen to what you want, and you start listening to these little random lucid thoughts that go across your head. Okay. And these little lucid thoughts, these are coming from the universe. Okay. So these little lucid thoughts that you get that don't seem to have anything to do with anything, you start to act on those. And as you act on those, you will get more breadcrumbs. It's like you follow this trail of breadcrumbs and you will start to move towards knowing what you want. So I will emphasize here as well that sometimes if you don't know what you want, you just need to take action and make a decision and move forward in some way so that you can collect more information so that you can know what you want. Because sometimes what you want becomes clear through action rather than through thinking about it. You have to sometimes do things in order to know that it is or isn't what you want, right? So there's a dynamic process here of a number of different things. And the first is finding space. The second is actually asking these difficult questions of yourself. And the next is listening to this little voice that's in your head that is going to start giving you some random off the cuff directions. And the more off the cuff it is, the more likely that it's inspired. The less that it makes sense to you, the more that it's probably coming from the universe, all right? And then you need to take action on it, because if you do not take action on these little voices that you hear, the universe is going to see that you're not collaborating with it. So the universe needs to see that you're going to put in some work. It's not about you being less than the creator. It's not about the creator being more than you. It's not about you trying to make it all happen and the creator's not doing anything, right? That's not what it's all about. What it's about is that you are in collaboration with the universe, and you, in order to be participating in that collaboration, you need to do shit. So as you do some of those things, the universe is going to rise up to meet you, so long as you go out there and do the thing. So I've covered a lot of different ideas in this podcast, and I really look forward to hearing your comments and feedback on this episode as far as how this helps you in knowing what is true for you and what is aligned for you in moving forward in your own life. So thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you spending your valuable time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So I will see you next week and talk to you then.